discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All that oppose, the motion carries. Okay, now, let's see, we've reconvened. Would you all please join me in the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have our consent agenda, our regular meeting and our strategic session from the 5th of October. We'll all have a chance to review the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Okay.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second, any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All that oppose, motion carries. Next up, Dr. Frazier, we have a few recognitions, I see.
Good evening again, board members, and good evening to our guests that are in the audience. Yes, we do have some recognitions for the month, and so this month we have celebrated National School Lunch Week, National Bosses Day, America's Safe Schools Week, School Bus Safety Week, Digital Citizens Week, and we will celebrate Red Ribbon Week. Also this month we've been celebrating National Bullying Prevention Month, Diversity Awareness Month, Disability History Month, National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, School Bus Safety Awareness Month, and Farm to School Month. For school bus safety, there was our transportation department did an excellent video that was led by Mr. Walker and Aaron Hayden. And so that video will be shown to our elementary school students tomorrow as they learn to practice school bus safety. This month we are also just reminding the public that October 20th and through 22nd, which is this weekend, is sales tax. It's a sales tax holiday here in Virginia. So if you need those school supplies, you need to get some extra school clothes. We're encouraging our families to take advantage of that. And now I will turn it over to the most important recognitions, and that we'll have Miss Britt and Miss Bird. They will come and they will give us our students of the month and our staff of the month.
For the elementary school, our teacher of the month is Tracy Crowder. Ms. Crowder is a supportive presence for both her colleagues and students. She is attentive and caring educator who genuinely desires the best for her students. There is no victory that is too small for her to celebrate with them, and she provides encouragement to all students regardless of whether they are in her class. She brightens the day of as many kids and teachers as possible with her warm, welcoming smile every day. And then our student of the month is a pre-K student, Adrian Herring, and he has been chosen as West Point Elementary School Student of the Month. Adrian's teachers have consistently observed his kindness, his active participation, his helpfulness, and his excellent listening and following of directions. We're very proud of Adrian. I did want to throw into that each year our teachers do positive office referrals, and I've kind of talked about them in the past. This year we started them back up on September 26th, and so far we've had 36 students receive positive office referrals. These students get a medal or certificate and are featured in our PN. That's awesome.
So our teacher of the month is Miss Belinda Goins. She is described multiple ways by her students as nice, understanding, a teacher who can make you smile, fun and kind. Students also say that she's consistent with her work, caring, making sure that students do their best, and makes learning history very interesting. And our two students of the month from the middle school, we have Maya Westmoreland, and at the high school, Ethan Maynor. And teachers describe both of these students as respectful, hardworking, helpful, just wonderful students in the classroom, always participating in positive manners. and they were just thrilled to have them as our students of the month.
And so we congratulate and we thank our principals for presenting that. But we also congratulate our students of the month and our staff of the month. We are always pleased of the hard work and the kindness that they show throughout our school division. So that concludes our recognitions for the month.
Thanks, Dr. Frazier. Okay, we have our presentations. First, we have a strategic plan revision update. Dr. Baker and Dr. Frazier.
All right, so everyone is aware that we have been working through revising our strategic plan. A strategic plan was adopted last year, or 2 years ago, and we knew that the plan still needed some work. So in July, we got together and we partnered with the Berkeley Group and Dr. Baker to work on some revisions to our plan. And so tonight we will be presenting those revisions. And Dr. Baker's joining us this evening to actually talk about the process.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Frazier, and it's been a pleasure working with the leadership team. But Mr. Chairman and distinguished board members, I want to again thank you for welcoming this local boy back home, for the opportunity to give back, obviously representing the Berkeley Group, the opportunity to work with all of you. And a big part of this process that I think distinguished it from ones I've been part of in the past is this board's involvement, both at the front end during the entire process, staying engaged, but then more recently, kind of bringing to you all the work that had been done and getting your feedback, which you provided in many different forms that was very constructive and very helpful. And so I think, as Dr. Frazier said, and I'm not going to speak very long, but you have had a plan that I think had a lot of rich components in it, a lot of rich content, and it was really a matter of getting the collective feedback on how do we make the plan, how do we put the plan in more actionable form. And I really believe that all of you collectively sort of subscribe to, especially as this process goes, to what Stephen Covey would say is the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And I think in this particular case, the plan has to be what you're focused on in governance, as leadership, all the way into the classrooms. It has to be what you're focused on. And I think what has happened in kind of the evolution, the intentional evolution of this plan has been to take what were the mission and vision, strong foundations, core values, and then take that foundation and provide goals and strategies that can help to direct the work so that the plan becomes more easily put into implementation. And I think, as many of you know, beginning with you as a board, we began to ask you, well, as we focus on certain goals and strategies, what does success look like? What does achievement look like? And we came up with a number of different sample performance indicators. I think it's really important, as Dr. Frazier takes you all the way through your broad goals, that in the end, obviously there are some things, and we talked about this at the end of our last meeting, there are some things that you simply cannot conveniently measure. How people feel about things, what the culture is like, how you as an organization impact someone's life forever. It's hard to put that into a nice, convenient statistical measure, but there are things that need to be monitored, that need to be lined up, that you can be monitoring data as you go along. And so I do believe that, as Dr. Frazier is going to share, really so often we have what's called the planned product that does not resemble the process of what the work looks like. I'm really confident, based on your leadership, individually and collectively, and what we've been involved with, that this plan is going to continue to come to life in what happens in schools and with children each and every day. So that's kind of my bit, and I'll turn it over to Frazier.
All right, so when we look at our plan, the name of our plan is, it is truly our bridge to opportunity. 2023 to 2028. And when we look at that bridge to opportunity, we focus on our mission here at West Point is to engage all students in robust preparation for a life of continuous learning as productive citizens. This mission has been the mission of West Point, and we've been grounded in this work. This mission was the mission that we originally adopted when we adopted the plan 2 years ago. But what we did was we shortened the mission just to make sure that it was memorable. We want people to know that this is the work that we're doing every day on a daily basis. So when we look at our vision, we are creating a bridge to opportunity that empowers each student to maximize their potential, to achieve academically, grow personally, and contribute positively to their community. And we know that that is what our teachers, that's what our support staff, that's what we all do every day. We make sure that we're empowering those students, empowering our students. And here in West Point, academics is always at our forefront. But we want our students to be able to grow personally and to make sure that they have those opportunities to positively impact our community here in West Point and all over. So when we look at our values here are relationships, innovation, being student-centered, and excellence. When we talk about relationships, we make sure that every student has that connection. Every student should be connected to an adult, and we also make sure that we build those positive relationships with our staff and with our school community as a whole. When we talk about innovation, we talk about being future focused. We talk about being inspiring and making sure that we're being creative in the way that we're thinking. We're creative about with the classes that we're offering our students, and we're creative in the offerings that we have for our students. Here in West Point, we have been focused on innovation for several years, even to the point that we were able to receive an innovation grant. And so that innovation that we started, that innovation will continue as we move forward. Being student-centered, being able to make sure that we focus on all students and making sure that all students have the opportunities to be successful and have everything that they need to be successful. And when we talk about excellence, we say on a daily basis, excellence in all we do. We want to make sure that our students receive an excellent education, that this is an excellent school division, and not only in the instruction, but in our operations of our school division. We are striving to be excellent every day. And one thing that we heard from our teachers is that they are proud that we not only focus on the academic piece, but we also have that high emphasis on arts and athletics. So when we look at our goals, we've broken our plan down into 3 goals. And so we have a goal for teaching and learning, and that goes to the core. That's the core work that we're doing every day. Our core instructional team, they work every day to make sure that we are focused on engaging curriculum and instruction, and we're providing students with those real world connections and experiences. Goal 2, we're focused on student and staff well-being. So that's what we focus on safety and security. We're focused on our culture. We're focused on the wellness for our students, our staff, and our entire community. And those resources, where we're engaging our staff and our stakeholders in the processes in providing proficient, transparent stewardship of our human, physical, and capital resources. And so in this school division, we can say we have been a good steward of our physical resources, and we have a great relationship with our town council and our funding, but we're also continuing to work on our stewardship of our human resources and making sure that we're moving in the right direction when it comes to our human resources and retention, and making sure that we have the right people in the right places to do the work. And we also have a true focus on capital and our capital resources. So being able to look at what those improvements are that need to be made to make sure that we have the best facilities for our students within our budget, and also making sure that our students have the best resources possible. So that's making sure we have the best buses, making sure that we have the best technology, and making sure that our students truly have everything that they need to be successful here in West Point. So when we look at what are our next steps past this plan. So once this plan is adopted, we will continue to work with our schools and departments on those key performance indicators so we can measure and monitor our success. We have to work on branding and communication. Everyone in our community needs to know the direction that we're going in the school division. They need to know that we're truly pointed in the right direction. And we will continue to work with Dr. Baker as he helps us work through our implementation of our plan. And so we can't allow this to stop now. Once it's approved, we have to make sure that those key performance indicators are in place, and we're measuring, and we have an expert that can help us and help coach our team to make sure that we are truly following the plan that we put in place. And then we will always be reporting back to the board on how things are going based on our plans. Are there any questions? Dr. Baker, did you want to share anything else?
I don't know. Does the board want me to share anything else? I mean, is there anything else you want me to share? Because I don't want to take any more time.
Y'all good? We're good.
Yeah, Dr. Baker, we certainly appreciate your partnership in this journey. It is a journey, and it's nice to have a plan. I think a living, breathing document. It's what the boards put in, that staffs put in, and I think it would be a good tool for the community. So we appreciate your help with it.
I do want to echo what Dr. Baker said at the beginning. I think that the work of the leadership team, with all of us coming around the table from each department, come around the table and being able to talk about this, and then be able to put the pieces together, and then to also be able to have that feedback from the board from the very beginning, it really helped to make sure that this process was a good process, and it truly made sure that we were all on the same page and be able to move in the right direction. So I appreciate the work of our leadership team and the school board. And so now, if we move this to an action item tonight, we will approve our strategic plan, and then we will work on that branding and communication and make sure that all of our stakeholders know what our plan is.
If we motion to move this to an action item, do you want us to do that when we get to action items, or you want it now and label it action item G?
You can move it now. You can do the motion now, and I'll move the
Okay.
action item G.
All right, so do we have a motion to move our strategic plan, to action to accept and adopt tonight?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
I didn't know about the first
Any
one,
other
so.
discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, so we will label that G.
Yes.
Okay. So we will add that to our action item list. Great. Next up, we have WHRO Educational Services presentation. Mr. Seward, welcome.
Thank you. Chairman Jenkins, members of the board, Dr. Frazier. My name is Elmer Seward. I'm Vice President of Education Services at WHRO. And I have with me tonight Dr. Mitzi Fell Seward, who is Vice President of Digital Learning at WHRO. Before you should have a document like this. That's our annual impact statement. Every year we produce a detailed report of all of the education resources and activities that we produced during the past school year. You have that document because you are one of 21 school divisions in the region who actually own the license to WHRO. On the map, you can see all of the other school divisions who are also owner members of WHRO. Our history goes way back into the 1960s when Hampton City Schools and Norfolk City Schools decided they had a shortage of qualified math and science teachers, and they built a TV studio. They put teachers in front of cameras and broadcast into classrooms. And they selected as the call letters for that station, HRO or Homeroom 1. So we do a lot in the education space, and we are the only public media outlet in the nation who is owned by a collection of school divisions. So I'm here tonight to present our report. We usually go on a 2-year cycle to school boards. You receive the report every year, but we will go out to school board meetings on alternating years. It's a little difficult to get all 21 school divisions in 1 year. And so I'm here to present our report tonight. The first service I'd like to report on is eMedia VA. This is a digital learning object repository that has tens of thousands of learning objects that are aligned to the SOLs that are free for teachers and students to use. These are videos, educational videos, student interactivities, student games, lesson plans, images, documents. All of these are searchable by SOL or term search. All of them align to the SOL, and they're all available for teachers to use in the classroom with students. Our Children's Services Department has a program where we take educational vans out to the schools. These vans go out to elementary schools, and most of the programs are focused on grades K through 2. We have 3 vans, and you see them up there: the literacy van, the environmental van, and the STEM van. They bring lessons into the classroom that are SOL aligned, that have student activities. There's usually a story involved in the lesson, and we usually hand out books to students because we think it's important for students to have books. We think it's important to push literacy and make sure that students know that it's important to be readers. These vans come out by request, so if you would like one or more of the vans to come here, just contact us. We'll be glad to schedule those visits for you. I wouldn't be deterred by the distance from where our office is in Norfolk. We go all over the region. We'll be glad to come out and conduct activities. And students get excited when the vans come. And I think it's a great opportunity for them. Next, Miss Martha Reeds. Now, we take the literacy van out and we do literacy activities face-to-face with students. But when the pandemic hit, we had a real problem. We couldn't get into schools. We couldn't get to students directly. So our manager of Children's Services, Martha Razor, who you see on the screen, started a Facebook streaming program once a week where she read stories that were written and illustrated by students. And it became very popular. It continues to be popular. We get about 6,000 views every week on the show. The stories are interesting. I guess I should say that where the stories come from is an interesting story in itself, and we'll get to that on one of the later slides. We provide professional development. We do it in face-to-face format. We also do it as webinars. Last year, we provided over 50 professional development opportunities for teachers, and more than 1,400 educators around the state were involved in those in one way or another. You can see just a listing of a few of the professional development sessions that we conducted last year. And we'll be glad to come out to West Point and do in-person training, and West Point teachers are certainly welcome to participate in any of the webinars that we conduct. Our digital learning team creates digital content that teachers can use in the classroom. Most notably, they've created 27 complete online courses. These are high school courses. They're a full year of content, completely textbook independent, everything a student would need to know, everything they would need to interact with, everything they would need to do in order to get a credit for that course is included in that online course. Those courses are provided to you all for free. You can use them however you like. You can edit them, you can change them, you can modify them however you like. I think probably one of the misconceptions about the course is, well, this is an online course. Do we have an online program? I don't know if we can use them. These courses can actually be used in a blended format as well. Teachers can be working with students in person, and in the evenings send them to one of the assignments or some of the material that's in the course, or to watch one of the videos that's in the course. Or they can be used in a face-to-face setting. A teacher can pull up some of the course in class, use that with their students in the classroom. There's a lot of work that goes into these. These were written by Virginia licensed teachers. And we have another team of Virginia licensed teachers who come in and edit behind them to check for accuracy, to make sure that they're 100% aligned to the SOLs, and they are. And it's a great resource for West Point and all the other school divisions in our region. And we have a short video about the courses here.
WHRO's digital learning team creates high-quality, engaging content used by teachers, students, families, and administrators across Virginia. Economics and Personal Finance is a full-year online course that is one example of WHRO content utilized by school divisions. This course has 13 modules filled with videos, learning objects, content, learning activities, assessments, reflections, and more. This digital content is aligned with Virginia's standards of learning, promotes Virginia's 5 C's, and provides students with multiple opportunities to demonstrate their knowledge of materials through real-world, authentic experiences. Students begin their studies in the course where they discover how to navigate the course. They also meet TJ, a high school student, and his peers who are involved in an after-school economics and personal finance club. Students learn from TJ's financial decisions and mistakes through the comedic videos at the beginning of each module. Each module has several topics or lessons that allow students to check their knowledge before receiving an assignment. At the end of each module, students either complete a project, test, or both related to all of the module topics. There's also a module reflection where students can analyze what they have learned and make connections between the content and their everyday life. The module summary provides a digest of module information and prepares students for the next module. In addition to the intriguing content, a student resources section is filled with tools to help students with assignments and projects. We also create an instructor's guide to assist the teachers. WHRO's digital learning team works diligently to design aesthetically appealing content that represents people from diverse cultures and ethnicities and provides multiple learning pathways. Additionally, our content is fully accessible and includes options for students, like using a keyboard for navigation, providing ADA compliant transcripts, printables, closed captioning, descriptive alt tags, reducing cognitive fatigue, and much more. Fortunately, our team can install our digital content into multiple learning management systems. This skill set helps us meet the needs of school divisions and provides options to use our content entirely online or in blended learning environments. Economics and Personal Finance is just one example of the breadth and depth of educational content that WHRO's Digital Learning Department creates and distributes to school divisions.
To help in creation of those courses, we've pulled together a student advisory board made up of high school students who come in and give us input on the design of the course, how it appeals to students, and how they can interact with the assignments, and is it an effective way to work with students in the classroom. Because we feel in the end, the student is the person who's receiving the instruction, and they should have some input on how that instruction is being delivered. At WHRO, we like to highlight the accomplishments of students. And so we have several student competitions. The first we'll talk about is PBS Kids Writers Contest. Elementary students write stories, they illustrate stories, they submit them to us. We then have a group of Judges come together, they judge the stories, first, second, and third place in each grade level, and we have a special environmental category where first, second, and third places are selected. Then we invite the winners to our studio. As you can see there, the winners from last year, where they receive ribbons, and we celebrate them because we think that student achievement should be celebrated. And then the stories that the students write for the Writers' Contest are the stories that Martha reads in Miss Martha Reads every week. So students are excited. Their story's going to be read online. They have their family and their friends log on. They all watch. It's a great time and a great way for students to be recognized for work they've done. Another competition that we conduct is the Regional Spelling Bee. Middle school students from schools throughout the region have their own bee first, send their winners to WHRO, and then in the studio, we have the Regional Spelling Bee, where the regional winner is selected. We broadcast that. Scripps doesn't allow us to broadcast it live because evidently there was a little bit of people maybe accessing words off of the unpublished list before their own bee. And so we have to wait until April 1st. We broadcast it on April 1st on WHRO. And then the winner of the spelling bee goes on as our representative in the National Bee. Let me show you a brief video.
SPELLINGE.
Each year, middle school students from across the region compete for the opportunity to represent our area in the Scripps National Spelling Bee. The stage is set and the competition is fierce. Who will take home the title of Spelling Bee champion?
Watch the WHRO Spelling Bee.
Watch the spelling bee April 1st. Watch the spelling bee April 1st at 2 p.m. on WHRO.
And then another competition that we conduct, in fact, it's actually two competitions, is the Great Computer Challenge. This will be the 39th year that we've conducted this. And even during the pandemic, we managed to do it online. It was a little clunky, but we made it work. So elementary students come in on one Saturday in teams, and they compete against other teams on the campus of ODU. And we partner with ODU to conduct this competition. And these teams compete in different categories. It may be software, a piece of software that they've learned to use, an application in some way. And then on a separate Saturday, middle and high school students come in at the Web Center on ODU, and they compete. It's a big competition. In fact, it's run on 2 Saturdays because it's become so large, we can't do it on one Saturday anymore. Teams from all over come in and compete. You can see the trophies and the plaques that they receive. We like to celebrate students who are learning to use computers in an effective way. And so we hold this every year. Huge competition, and we're glad to do it because it's great to see these students being recognized for the work they've done. But the bottom line is, what's the return on investment for our school division? In the document that you have, I think it's on page 12, we've tried to give you a quantification of that return on investment. Last year, I think that West Point paid $3 per student to be members of WHRO and to be a member owner. And for every dollar spent, you had access to $324. Actually, it's a little more than $324 worth of resources and services. And that's a pretty good return on investment, I would say. So I thank you for your time tonight, and I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Mr. Seward, I'm sure as you saw from our strategic plan, we value relationships, and certainly WHRO is one of the relationships that, not just now, but in the past as well, we value. Thank you for what you provide for our community and 20 other member schools, so thank you for being here tonight.
Well, thank you for having me, and as I said, anything that you see there and you would like to access more of it, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. We have high school, middle school presentations for. Good work.
It's not. There we go. Okay, I have to click, sorry. So, to present to you all tonight, I wanted to present a process that the middle high school staff is going through in regards to instruction across the building. So we began several weeks ago looking at goal setting for instruction, for improvement. Dr. Frazier had asked us to look at goals, so we split the staff into departments and really wanted them to look at the data that we have. We are very data rich, we have a lot of it. We also looked at the learning audits that we conducted, which I'll speak of here in a minute. And I asked the departments to really work together to create instructional and student achievement goals for the school year. So this is the presentation that I shared with, part of the presentation I shared with them. I wanted them to identify a goal, so it's similar to what we've been working on with the division strategic plan, and identify action steps, and then this coming Monday, the departments will complete their goal writing for the year. So we will have an instructional goal and a student achievement goal that we'll be able to monitor throughout the school year to drive instruction, to drive achievement. So when we are goal setting, we are looking at SMART goals. So it's interesting, you know, after this is a typical process that educators go through, but you know, then there was that COVID experience that we all had, and everybody kind of went to, you know, let's just keep everybody together. So now we're getting back to the power of goal setting. And I love goal setting. I do, you know, I told the staff I do this personally because New Year's resolutions don't work. You know, only about 6% of people who ever do them finish them. I'm one of those, in the weekend I'm done. So, so learning how to set goals personally, professionally, academically is really powerful when they're done well. So we reviewed what a SMART goal looks like and the elements that it needs to contain. And so I asked them to meet, and based on our learning audit, so I'll explain the learning audit, and I have a teacher, Mr. Cole's gonna kind of give you a teacher perspective on the process that we're going through. But just to get to know the teaching staff, because I'm new, we conducted what we call learning walks, and we looked at tier 1 instruction, which is basic good instruction that should be occurring in every classroom. So we looked at 5 elements, and the administrative staff and then the central office staff came, and we do 10-minute pop-ins looking for we had 5 look-fors, what we saw across the school. It's not a part of their evaluation. That wasn't the purpose of this. It was, number 1, for me to get to learn what's happening in classrooms in the middle and high school, and to kind of see where we are, get a baseline, so that we can kind of track our growth and improvement. So we had some real areas of strength that we found, and we had a couple of areas that we feel like, yeah, we could beef up a little bit. The teachers are great at high yield strategies, phenomenal. We like to see a few more literacy strategies thrown in, a little more vocabulary instruction thrown in, some learning targets in there. So that will become part of our goals, and so that we can track growth on those throughout the school year. And then of course, teachers, they have all their data to look at student growth and what the needs of our students are to see them grow and hit those high marks that we want them to hit. So I just gave you a really brief overview of what we did in our staff development session, but I do want to make this note too. When I turned it over to departments, it was really interesting the conversations that were had. and teachers calling me and emailing me say, hey, can you come down and just sit and talk? And that is one of my absolute favorite things to do, is to sit and hear teachers talk about their instruction and what they want to see happen and where they want their class to go, and to get feedback. I've probably sat with 4 or 5 teachers and at least one department, but I talked to Mr. Cole one morning because the math department really is deep diving into this. And it's really phenomenal, and it was so great to talk about instruction and the process. I think I got a little, almost made you late to class because we were talking so much. But I really wanted him to share from a teacher point of view and instruction on the ground, so that you can kind of get an idea of what these discussions and goal setting sessions sound like and look like, and what they could mean for our teachers and for our students. So, there's not another slide.
So hello. I don't know if you know, but our math department is relatively young. We had 4 new hires last year, 5 if you count our interventionist, and in a district as small as West Point, that is a major turnover. So with the exception of 2 of us, we were starting from scratch in terms of developing as a PLC. And the SMART goal process that Ms. Birds described has really been helpful in terms of us developing a common language and vertically planning and figuring out what our goals are as a math department. That's especially important because the math standards of learning are being updated this year, and they're even more ambitious than ever. So for us to all be on the same page, 6 through 12, is really, really important. And that fact that we are a middle school, high school combined with 6 through 12 all housed in one space is a really strong advantage that we can work to our favor if we develop goals and we figure out ways to work toward them. So one of our goals instructionally that we'd like to work toward is the development of rational number sense, basically an understanding and fluency with fractions, decimals, and percents, especially fractions. Our accelerated students typically will go through the 3 years of middle school curriculum in only 1 or 2 years, and that's when a lot of those skills are really covered and explored. So how do we make that work in a compacted curriculum? And what we decided to do was to make that our goal and to develop short assessments incorporated into our benchmarks that will check for student understanding in terms of rational number sense. And it looks different in a 6th grade classroom than, say, a high school geometry class. So we're each going to look at how our subject and our grade level can contribute to that growth. And we're going to have, so we'll have different ways that we're assessing it and different aspects of it that we're all contributing to. But we realize that we all have a different piece of the puzzle. And so we're hoping that long term, this is something that will eventually make a pretty substantive impact. The other goal that we have for student growth that we're still in the process of developing, last year I was fortunate enough to, with several other people from West Point, attend a VASCD conference. And there was a particularly impactful session there on the science of hope. And basically it talked about hope as a measurable attribute. And the presenter provided many, many resources, very, very dense, and strategies that help us improve a student's hope. And when you look at specific learning disabilities and the impact that trauma can have on learning, the science of hope really offers one of the only impactful ways that we can maybe benefit students. And the resources that she gave me, I'm not cut out to understand them. That's not my wheelhouse. And fortunately, we have a really strong math department, and so everybody's able to chip away. And we're hoping that we can come together to integrate the development of ways to build hope, which is hard for me to describe, but again, that's why I'm counting on my colleagues in the math department. But the process, the SMART goal process, we're really looking forward to that helping us develop as a PLC, and I think that so far it has.
Mr. Chair, if I can just say publicly that we appreciate the work that Ms. Bird is doing, leading our middle school, high school. She has been a phenomenal asset to our team. The learning walks that she's doing, like, it's all real. She's not just getting up in front of the board talking. She's doing the work. And we all have joined her on those learning walks, and she's then turning around and using that information that she's meeting with her teachers. And so she's doing a phenomenal job. And also just want to thank Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole is a great leader of our math team at the secondary school. He works hard. He's here in the summer. He does whatever you ask him to do. And so we are grateful that he's here at West Point. He's part of our team. And we will be sending him to the conference again this year so he can get some more resources to put in his toolkit.
And maybe he can come back and talk about the science of hope and how you incorporated that at the end of the school year.
After 2 decades of professional developments, this is probably the most impactful thing I've ever seen. I'm excited to see how
Eager to hear
we
more.
use it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say just not only from trauma, but like the mental health challenges like we're facing as a society, right? Like it's not getting easier for kids. So yeah, signs of hope. And I would appreciate a parents' workshop on math skills too. It would have benefited me and my kids.
WHRO was gonna come up with the econ and
But no, both of you, thank you for everything you do. And to Dr. Frazier's point, yeah, it's refreshing to see, like, we just had a presentation on a strategic plan. We know goals and objectives are part of that. So it's refreshing to see that in action and that it is being used, and it's a tool that we're all going to be a part of. So thank you for that. Next up, reports. Ms. Osborne. Nutrition.
Good evening. It's nice to see y'all. I thought I would come tonight and update you because I haven't seen you since last year this time. We've been a little bit busy. So, just an overview. Last year, total, we served 99,998 meals. The elementary school, a little over 22,000 breakfasts. High school, 17,000. And then at the elementary, lunch was 28, and at the high school, lunch was 31. In addition to those numbers, in the a la carte department, we sold 98,205 items. And then just the a la carte for a revenue of a little over 104,000, which to me is just, doesn't make any sense. So last year at this time, we had a free and reduced percentage of 36.1. Right now, we're at 37.7. So out of our 800 plus students, as of today, 319 are eating for free. So I thought I'd update you on the many improvements that have happened since basically the beginning of the year. In February, we replaced the high school 2-door freezer because it decided to stop working. Then in March, the elementary school 3-door cooler decided to stop working. And then in April, the elementary school 2-door cooler decided to stop working, so we upgraded to a 3-door cooler. So over the summer, I took the opportunity to replace the tray carts that we had since before I ever came. They needed to be gone. And so we have new carts, new trays, and we never had proper shelving, so now we have adequate shelving. We also installed 3 steamers this summer with the equipment tables, the pans, the lids, and the drainage pans, because we were boiling water that was extremely dangerous for the girls to handle back and forth. And this is a much better solution. The elementary school got a well-deserved new ice maker because it had been there way too long. The high school doesn't sound like something exciting, but the mock room, we got a facelift. We got a white coat of paint. We took an old nasty sink out that didn't work. We got new shelving we never had, and now as you can tell, it's bright and light and it's not scary. And then in August, the 2-door high school cooler decided to stop working, so we bought it. Then in September, the 2-door freezer decided to stop working. And it was delivered, totally damaged, torn apart. So we started the school year without one. In the other part of the equipment, I recently bought a new digital temperature monitoring system that Mr. Seward's helping me with. It's going to be, help me if I'm wrong, it's going to come off the Ethernet gateway, and it's going to have Wi-Fi, so we have 17 freezers and coolers between the two schools that you don't know what they're doing unless you walk up to them. So they have an internal temperature, they're gonna have the external digital thermometer on the outside. It's set up through their system as well as through the app. Everything's been labeled, given a name. I have temperature settings in it. If it goes over or under it, it will alert me on my phone. It'll be in the app, on the computer. If you're out for Christmas, if it's a holiday, if it's a hurricane, I'll know what's going on at school so we can fix it now instead of losing everything and coming back on Monday. Over the summer, Mr. Stewart will tell you that my computers needed replacing. So I got 2 new computers and 2 new monitors, and then the printer at the elementary school decided to stop working, so we bought one of those too. This is the exciting part. So in September, I know you all are familiar with the back playground parking lot. Well, that's what it used to look like, and this is what it now looks like. We have a new walk-in freezer, 8 foot by 12 foot. The new bollard covers showed up this morning, so I added them to the presentation. And the new shelving that went in. And then last week, the freezer on the left-hand side is the old freezer that has been here a long time. And as you can see, it's starting to degrade and fall apart, and it was leaking condensation. So on Saturday, they came in and rebuilt it. So that's the new freezer, and they're coming back Thursday and Friday to finish the wiring. So then we'll have that one. So at the end of last year, we were very fortunate that everyone received the year-end bonuses. So that came out of our budget as well. Over the summer, we decided to raise the starting pay in the cafeteria. It was at $13.24, which we just didn't think was adequate. That's not gonna make it now. So we upped it to 15. So with all the equipment that we bought and the addition of pay raises and bonuses, we had a total of $164,000 for right now. And then between now and next spring, I plan on installing a walk-in cooler at the high school, which the 48 is an estimate. I'm waiting on the quotes on that. And then next summer, I think we have the original 30-quart mixers that came with the building. And they're going to be replaced. I got to figure out how we can get them out of the building. And that'll be an additional $79,000 we might spend in the next 9 months. I know that sometimes there's a question because there's money in the cafeteria account. What are we going to do with it? Where is it going to go? How are we going to spend it? And so I just wanted you all to see we've spent $170,000 since February. We've got another $80,000 we're looking to spend. We've just been very blessed and fortunate that I've been here back at this position 10 years. And when I came back, we had $37,000 in the bank. And where we've come in the last 10 years, I'm very proud of. And the fact that we can do these things, I'm very proud of, and I have to ask y'all to do them. And it's helping us to grow. And as you can tell, we run out of wall space. So I'm just very thankful that we can do this. We try to only offer, the things the kids want. We want them to eat with us. We want them to come to us, and we have a wonderful relationship with them. So I'm proud of where we are, and we've done a lot since February. So, y'all have any questions for me? Oh, that doesn't include the bills. That's just extra. That's the bonus and the fluff. Since August, I think I paid $105,000 just in groceries and paper products, and it's just, we're blessed. It goes out, it comes in. So it's a current circle.
Last year, you shared that you've been having some problems getting some food items, just because things were, I was gonna ask you that.
Yes, ma'am. The lady from the distributor actually called me today. She said, "You're not getting these vegetables. You're not getting cereal. So what do you want to do?" And I said, "Okay, chocolate milk was not delivered today. There's a shortage of milk cartons. So they only delivered white milk today. And I don't know when we'll ever get chocolate milk. Because they'll have the ingredients to make the milk cartons. So that'll be interesting. It's always something." Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Osborne, thank you. I know, go back to our strategic plan. I mean, we gotta brand this thing, right?
That's right.
Awareness, but no, we know when it comes to the value of student centered, that is you, looking out for all our kids' meals and, the challenges that you have from supply chain to resources to space, but, so we appreciate everything you do.
Well, thank you very much. We're trying.
Gabby loves the banana bread.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you're aware. Yeah, I think she's probably half of your Olive Garden revenue was in banana bread.
Just a little bit.
I wanted to buying her some of that banana bread, and I was like, oh, I can't afford that.
I also just want to thank Ms. Osborne. She does a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
I often tell her that she needs more help because she does a lot of this herself. And you go by the school at any time of the evening, her vehicle is still there because she's working and she's so committed. But she's putting the time in and she's doing the work. And you can tell by the numbers that our children are eating and the revenue is constantly coming in. But also in all of these projects that's happening, and the rebuild of a freezer and the replacing freezers and refrigerators and all of that, she's managing all of that as well. So there's no person that's helping her with the finance piece. She's doing it all. And we know that our cafeterias, they sustain themselves. The division does not pay into the cafeterias. And so she's doing a really good job managing those funds and having the monies that are needed to make it happen. I've heard the stories of once upon a time when the school division was having to cover things for the cafeterias before Ms. Osborne took over. So we appreciate what you're doing.
But they
Keep
need to
up.
know, I like to be a good steward of the money. We're not gonna waste it, and we're not gonna be frivolous, and we're gonna stretch it as far as we can. Because you don't know what tomorrow brings.
And also when it came down to giving our food service or school nutrition workers the increase to the $15 an hour. And one of the main pieces behind that is all of those workers are part-time. So they don't receive any benefits like other employees do in the school division. And so we thought that was the least that we could do was to up their wage. So it was more attractive in the position, and so it also helped that living wage. So thank you.
You're
for all
very
you do.
welcome. Glad. Thank you. Thank you.
Really a wide nose face.
And stop by and get your coffee drink as well, right?
Making them tomorrow. Pumpkin spice is into the building, isn't it, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
Cafe,
Y'all
Cafe,
come
the
on.
cafeteria.
Come to the back door, ring the doorbell. I've done it before.
Got the hookup.
It's got good Wi-Fi connection in there too. I might just set up shop there.
I know you That's so funny.
My satellite office. So on to items under study. We have some policy. Oh no, did I skip? Oh yeah, I did. Forgive me, Dr. Freddie. Budget calendar. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, believe it or not, it is that time that we start talking about and planning for our FY25 budget. And so here are the proposed calendar dates and the schedule of budget events. And so if there are no concerns, we would move forward with these dates as proposed. And then I would also share these dates with Mr. Edwards and Town Council.
I'm good with the dates. I have kind of it's on topic, but maybe a little off topic. So we just did the facilities, or we had the facilities study presentation. When's the next time we're gonna be, I guess, is there more that's coming from them? Because I feel like that would play into some budget potential
So the next step in that process, we shared all the information with building level administrators and some other department level folks. And so now we're putting we're getting feedback from them. Now that it's been shared with the board, we'll get feedback from other administrators. We then plan to have another meeting with Crabtree to then talk about CIP and what items need to happen and need to happen when. And so then John Edwards and I will be in some conversations about some of the funding. And so yes, that will then come back to the board and we will have those discussions. Most of that probably can take place in a regular meeting, but if we need to schedule a meeting, then we can do that as well. Because we also know that the funding for any of those major capital will have to come from the town.
Right.
So
Right. Well, I guess that's why I was thinking about it when we're going through all this process. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, the second big milestones, we have the staff presentation like we historically do at the December meeting. And then sessions start at the end of January.
Right, and just note that December meeting is earlier in December. It is the 14th, and it is on a Thursday, and it's at 3:45. We'll have our two work sessions. We pushed one of those work sessions back to February. Last year we had both of those work sessions in January. But things seem to become a little slower from the General Assembly, so we pushed it back just a little bit. And then we'll still have time to make any edits and updates before the meeting on the 20th of February.
So is there a desire to move this to action, to adopt this budget calendar? Would it be beneficial?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to move the budget calendar to an action item tonight. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll have that as item H.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Frazier. Now on to page 2, and items under study. So we have some policy updates.
Yes, and so our policies from VSBA are, they are still under study. I did receive a couple of questions. I received some questions from 2 board members. I was able to answer those questions. There were some updates since our last meeting. I know Ms. Church shared some concerns about policy BDA. And just for that clarification, I shared with her that the VSBA did not actually strip those duties of the board. That was an error on our part, based on the fact that our policy did not match the VSBA's policy. And so some things before were shifted from other policies into BDA. And so we've now gone back and we fixed that. So those things are now back in BDA. Those revisions were included in your packet for this month. And I think any other concerns I've addressed as they come from board members.
The only other one I still had was for IKF, where it took out the performance-based assessments.
Right, and
Did
so
you get clarification on that?
I did. So actually, the performance-based assessments are still a thing. And as a school division, we are required to follow the assessments based on DOE. But what the state did was they removed performance-based assessments from the actual regulation. So they're no longer in the actual regulation, but it's still something that DOE does. And so the SBA just removed them from the policy because also in our policy manual it states that we follow the assessment program from DOE. Does that make sense?
No. So, just try to, BDOE is saying we're doing performance-based assessments.
Right.
But removed it
But
from.
it is no longer in the state regulation. They update, the regulation was updated and they
Okay.
removed it from the regulation, but VDOE, but VDOE still accepts and honors and requires the assessments, but it is just no longer in their regulation.
Okay. So what would be the harm in us just leaving it in here?
There is no harm if that's what the board wants to do.
It just, yeah, it still just seems like a really strange. Like, we are doing PBAs, but we're gonna do it from a regulation, it's kind of a mixed message.
We have no problem adding,
Yeah.
adding that one thing back to the policy.
And are there other things that VDOE does not have in policy, but it's a requirement to be accredited?
Yes.
So it's, there are other things. I don't have a problem.
I mean, I guess if I don't know. I just hesitate to take it out knowing that we are doing performance-based assessments. Like they're, I don't know, West Point has started the wonderful process of those history PBAs. But Gloucester has, and so I know that it's coming down the pipe, and I would just hate to remove it and then there be some sort of issue with that.
Well, we will add it back in, so it will show up in the revision for next month.
Well, I mean, if that's what everybody else wants. So, do you have any conversation about it?
I mean, I guess it can't hurt, right?
Right. Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, it's not.
I'm just curious what was their intent? Are they just trying to slim down policy?
They were just when I spoke to the person from VSBA, she said that they were just modeling the policy after the regulation, and so it was removed from the regulation, but knowing that school divisions are still required to follow the assessment guidelines from the DOE. So, like I said, it is no problem at all to add that back to the policy. We know that there are other policies that we have that are not going to match VSBA, exactly. So it's not a problem.
But yeah, I mean, because we don't have to match VSBA,
Absolutely.
so we can. Plus, I think it's good for us to still have that wiggle room with the verified date of credit anyway, because VDOE changes its mind as it being a requirement, but we still want to offer that as an option. We would still have that flexibility.
So is everyone okay with adding performance-based assessments back to the policy? Okay. Are there any other major policy concerns, or do we think we'll be prepared to adopt policies at our next meeting? So to make it easier on our clerk, we will add the policies as an action item for next month.
Thank you for looking into those things too.
You're welcome.
I had a question about VDOE model policies. I know we said we didn't do a true gap analysis. Did we look at it from the standpoint of consistency with our policy and maybe not a measure, but a degree of consistency with the model policies? Like, were there areas we thought it was inconsistent?
I cannot say that we did that. What we did was, at the beginning of, when we knew this policy was coming, we started working with our buildings to make sure that we were following as closely to this policy as possible from the beginning of the school year. But we did not necessarily go through to see what those differences, what all of those differences were in our current policy to the new policy. But if that's something that you would like, you can do that. And bring that to me. We can bring that to me next month.
I agree with a lot been said over the last couple of meetings about we shouldn't be just rubber stamping VSBA, or serves a purpose of, if anything, we get a routine refresh on policies and an opportunity for us to look at them, right? Because we don't review our policies on a proactive basis. Like, we have no policy that says we'll review policies every 2 years. So I think it's a good exercise to go through, and I just, in looking at that too, like I feel like we are consistent with the model policy. I think maybe there's some parental notification that we could probably document better, make it part of our policy. From a standpoint. So yeah, I was just curious if we had looked at that from an exercise standpoint.
Right, and some of the pieces around those parental notifications, we had some of those things in place already. So,
Like, I think our policy says, parental, like it should. Parental should occur. I don't know what the legal verbiage should be, but things like that, I think, like you said, we're doing this stuff in practice, it might be an opportunity to get more crisp on our policy and looking and comparing the two. But yeah, it was just a thought I had.
so would you like a comparison for next month?
I mean, if it's I don't think if it's a, I don't do burden, but if it's just a simple lift and shift of what we have versus what's being proposed, like, I think in the spirit of how we're approaching our policy, I think it makes sense, like, it should just be a rubber stamp, whatever comes down the pipe.
And if you're okay with it, we can work on that comparison and actually send that out in an email to the board prior to. So then also we can move this policy to an action item if there are no major concerns at that point. Is everyone okay with that? One more. We had C. Dr. Hauser, did you want to share some information about our sexually explicit materials regulation? Do you want to come to the
Yes,
podium?
that is
and-
my area of expertise. That's, if you give me an all year, that's not true. But anyway, yes, so as far as C, the librarians and I have been working together. We have identified our list. We used our cataloging sources to help us identify what would be considered adult sexually explicit materials and have generated that list. I can't say the librarians, but I can't say they were particularly happy about it. But some good has come already because at the middle and high school, the librarian has met with all of the English classes and explained that materials that are of an adult nature are labeled in our catalog, the computer catalog, so that if a middle schooler or even a high schooler at a younger high school level tries to check out something, that their parents will have to give permission for that. So the kids have already been kind of talked to about that and explained the process. And it is a little bit of a shift. It's not that anybody wants somebody to be exposed to material that they're not mentally prepared for. It's nothing like that. It's just the library is a place of intellectual freedom. But as far as the policy, it's about providing parents an opportunity to make some choice for their children. So, so what it will do, I think, is facilitate conversations with parents. And so far, we've actually had it in the catalog for the past month. It just hasn't happened, of course, which is good, because like we picture it being the opposite, kids trying to get, find something in the library or whatever. At least that's kind of what I picture. But so that's the good part of it. I mean, a lot's open to debate too, because on the list, you know, I have read a lot of the books on there, and I read them in middle and high school, and they're some of my favorites. So a lot is up for interpretation, because any book about religion, any book about health, any Shakespeare, is going to end up on the list. So, you know, hopefully we can use it to have good conversations with students and parents. I know I told Dr. Frazier this earlier, that I read Oedipus Rex and The Scarlet Letter, The Bluest Eye, and all of that when I was in middle and high school. And my mom said, I want you to read it at a time when you have teachers and me that you can talk to about it. And I probably read it too young, but it had a positive impact on me. But that was my mom saying, yes, I think you should read that. So hopefully we can have some good conversations with parents and students about, you know, what they're ready for as far as able to read and understand. And maybe even we can get parents to have some good conversations about what that looks like. So this is not an easy process though. And I mean, it's difficult because some of the teachers have looked at the list and gone, what? No. This and the policy you were just discussing, it is a little bit of a shift. So school counselors shifting from being all about protecting students to making sure parents' rights aren't violated. And then this is very much the same too. And there's sort of a shift between protecting like a child's intellectual freedom and choice to a parent's making sure their child is ready for such material. So it's just a shift in how we're viewing some of these things, and we're just trying to make the best of it. I can't say the counselors were happy. I can't say that the librarians like to think about books in this context, but we do want to make sure parents are in our communication loop and that we're all on the same team as far as making sure we make good choices for kids. So this is hard work. I mean, Dr. Frazier kept saying, you know, where are you with this? It was quite a process, so it was not easy.
And is that notification / approval, is that just electronic? Is it simple as an email, or is it signed forms? How do we?
It's a phone call.
It's a phone call.
Yeah, we don't want to send any, I mean, you know, and it's something like worthy of a conversation. You know, if you send an email, that's kind of cold. It can be like kind of weird, and then it's like, what's going on? What did my kid do? You know, but a phone call is like, this is what happened. Your child wanted to check this out. You know, I saw the tag on it that said adult content. This is the book. This is the author. You know, you can look it up and see what you think, or I can check it out to the student. They can bring it home. You guys can look at it together. I can keep it at my desk. You can get it from the front office. I mean, you know, there's all kinds of things that can happen as far as that goes. And so that's just where we are. If you have a better idea or a different idea, you know, it's hard. I mean, this is hard stuff. And you don't want to make a big deal out of it, because some of the kids, well, my observation, and probably Mr. Leach and I being in the library a lot the past year or so, is kids are usually trying to check out books well below their level. It's almost chronic. And so it's worthy of facilitating a conversation if somebody's trying to check out the best of William Shakespeare, and you're just not sure they're ready for it.
What are you, I'm reading over the policy again because I felt like maybe I'd missed something. Like, what are you guys using as the reference for which books are deemed?
We're using the library cataloging service. So we like subscribe to services which recommend books to us. And in the past we haven't paid as much attention to like what is you know, preteen or adolescent, what is children, and what is adult, because those categories overlap. So now we're asking for specifics on that, so that they can tell us their designation, because with those catalogs you have like a series of librarians peer reviewing materials and saying this is really more adults, or this is really more, you know, teen or more children. And that's really hard, and librarians don't like to do that, because sometimes you get an 18-year-old or even a 21-year-old student at the high school who's really looking for something much lower. And then you have the opposite too, a student who wants to read something with a much more mature vocabulary, which also happens to have more mature content. So right now we're relying on those peer reviewers to tell us what is what, as far as the adult content.
Is that like a subscription service or a?
We contract with them, we like buy our books from them because, that's like a, it's not just one company, like we do have Follow It Destiny, which does that work, but then other ways that we buy books can give us some of that information. Just librarians and libraries aren't real fond of, stamping it in that way necessarily, which is why we're doing it on the computer screen. And the substitute who subs in the library has been trained, she knows what to do. And then the librarian has personal knowledge of certain things. I think a few things that have been brought to her attention over the years aren't a part of the collection. They're in the special collection, so they can just be read in segments and things. I would say we're relying 90% on that service and 10% on what we know, like from the librarian and from teachers.
So it might be the minority room, I'm not sure. And I love you and adore you. I think this policy is great. I think there's been too much stuff that our children have been exposed to at too young of an age. We have ratings on TV shows and on movies. So I don't quite know why librarians are so upset about us rating books and making sure they're age appropriate. I understand libraries are a place for them to expand, their knowledge, to maybe experience things outside their imagination, and I appreciate that. I think those all can be done without having references to the things that are listed on here. So I'm a little bit disheartened to hear that librarians are upset that we're trying to make sure that our children aren't exposed to things too young. That really, as a school, we shouldn't be. Like as a teacher, if I wanted to show a video to my class that's above PG-13 or even PG-13 depending on what's in it, I have to get parent permission for that. I just don't know why the library is the exception to that. So I appreciate all the hard work y'all are doing. I understand it's a hard task. Like the act of filtering and going through the books is tedious, and I understand that. I understand there's probably some great literary works that you're like, seriously? And I get that as well. And I'm hoping that parents who have the right to see what their kids are learning, maybe they'll say, well, you know what? I read that one, so I'm okay with it. I think the problem was that we didn't know what was being read and what was available to them in the library, and they were bringing home books that were inappropriate. I read for you all last year a very highly inappropriate book that my 18-year-old daughter said was verbal porn, and it was available in the library. And we just, so I'm a little disheartened that we're labeling protecting our kids from sexual material that's beyond even like PG stuff, PG-13 stuff, as some stifling of their intellectual experience, because I just disagree with that. I think they can have that without reading about sex and bestiality and all this other stuff. Like, they don't need that to expand their horizons. There's plenty of great books out there that don't have that in there.
Right, and,
So,
I hope I didn't represent like the field of librarians. I don't think it's that they want kids to have access to it. I think what they say is some kids are ready, some kids aren't, and they don't want to prevent some from having access to it with parent permission just because some kids aren't ready and their parents object to it. So I know like a lot of the books that I was just referring to, have 400 pages and there's a paragraph about something terrible that happened. And so that book would be, classified as adult. And so there's no like right or wrong to any of this. It's all like open to opinion. But I think, you probably already know this, but I have my master's in library science. And it's part of the training, not that we want to expose children to anything harmful, but that we don't want to prevent access to something that at least could be wonderful. with something in it that might be really dark. And I think that's life. And so I think now we've just put it in a different hands. So we put it in some of the hands of the parents, and they're gonna have to make those decisions. And I think we're in a good place with that as far as the library. I just don't think it's easy, because just like with anything, some kids are ready, some kids aren't. Some parent might say, we're gonna read this together. No, that's what my mom did, made me read aloud some of the worst things ever, because she wanted us to talk about it. And not everybody had a mom like me. So I think it's just putting it in a different person's hands now, and hopefully it'll be something good that the librarian can facilitate with the parent, much like the counselor can facilitate with the parent about a student wishing to be called a different name. I hope that's what it is. But it takes all kinds. So I think like wanting to preserve some intellectual freedom as far as keeping the books in the library, that's a big deal. But just putting it back to asking the parent, is this okay? You can know what your kid is. Sorry, kid. I always think of a goat. But you can know what your child is reading and make that decision as the person that knows them the best. It's just not. It's just not easy. And probably with certs, if I showed you the list, you'd be like, what is that? And then you'd be like, well, this one definitely should be on the list, but that one, what in the world? Because, it's just,
I get what you're saying. I just think better to err on the side of caution, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Smith, Bob wants to check out. I use such generic names. Bob wants to check out.
I was like, Mr. Smith.
I know. I don't know. There's probably somebody over there. I know. Yes. But wants to check out this book. It's marked for this because of this, and then let the parent decide. But I just want to caution us from, kind of making this sound like it's a bad thing. I think this is a great thing. We're protecting our kids, which is our job as a school system. It's one of our roles is not just to educate them, but also we're supposed to be protecting them. And to say, well, I think this student's ready to read this book that maybe has content that's inappropriate, and I kind of liken that to a movie side of the spectrum, or dating, or other things, right? Well, your child's so much more mature than the others, so they should go ahead and do X, Y, or Z. And I would take issue with that, because just because they might act mature doesn't mean that they're actually ready to see those things. And
I do think, you brought up an interesting point, not to have a seminar here on this topic, but the access of video and television and radio and YouTube and the internet, so our books are like the last line of actual logical defense. Yeah, our last line of logical defense. Yeah, so
we don't control those things. We the school system, right? We block YouTube, right? We block YouTube, right?
Well,
do we block?
We block content that is
okay.
True.
Yeah.
But that's not
we
safe
control.
mode.
We don't control.
Yeah.
If they have
See,
a
you're
cell
on.
phone. I'm saying that we don't control as a school system if they're given a cell phone and can look at inappropriate videos on a different Wi-Fi than the one the school has. So we can't control all the factors of the world. We can only control what we're in charge of. And we are in charge of what goes on in the classroom and what goes on in the library. I get it. They're exposed to all sorts of things.
I think that was my point.
Them.
So we're giving parents an opportunity to weigh in on what's in the library, but parents are having trouble limiting their children's access to inappropriate media. And so I think the irony of that isn't lost on me, because I've raised 13 children. You all probably know that about me. And it is hard to keep your children safe and young and being okay with playing with dolls and toys, until they're 11 or 12, because our world is so fast paced. So I think the frustration with the library and librarians is, so parents are gonna be able to weigh in on the books when it's so impossibly frustrating for parents to control what their kids have access to in other ways. Now that's not a school issue, but that's what we're talking about, that school should be a safe place, right? and that home should be a safe place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so those two things are just way crazy overlapped as far as, you cannot have this book about this, whatever it is, the Scarlet Letter or whatever, but you can have access to some of those things without any filter. My kids used to order stuff on my phone, and I didn't know how they did it. Like, I had it set up on codes and security and all kinds of stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is, and this is personal, and Leslie, you and I love each other, but I'm gonna dig in. I'm gonna be like, read this book, but I'm taking your phone. Like, you can have the book in your bedroom at night, but you will not have your phone in there.
Right, which would be a choice of you as the parent.
Right.
Not you as the educator, or me as the educator, or them as the educator. Like, that's not our role. So I get what you're saying, but I think classrooms have always been that way. I expect my students to behave a certain way in my classroom, and when they go home, they're allowed to curse up a storm. They're allowed to, wear their pajamas. They're allowed to do all sorts of things they're not allowed to do in my classroom, right? And so they're not allowed to watch or read sexually explicit stuff in my classroom. What their parents allow them to do at home is a different thing, and that's between the parents. And again, we're not telling them they can never ever check out these books. We're letting the parents decide. And guess what? When they turn 18 and they want to go to the library and check them out, the public library, they can. If they want to order it on Amazon, when they have their own money, life's full of choices. But as a public school that is funded with taxpayer dollars, that we are responsible for making decisions that are best for the general population, we have to have these guidelines in place. And the parents can make the choices beyond that.
It's understudied, so
So we will continue working on the procedures that our team's working on, and those things we put in place. And next month we will move this item also to an action item. And so we will adopt a policy next month.
Did anybody else did y'all have any issues with it? Like, did y'all?
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I think the way I look at it is there is a lack of parental accountability in education and life. So I would say, I'll go back to the strategic plan.
If we can always go back to that.
We truly have an opportunity to deepen some relationships, whether it be with the librarian and the student, teacher and student, parent and the school. And I think that's the way we have to look at it. It's going to create some more work, but at the end of the day, I think it'd be a good thing if we've got a bunch of calls having to go to parents about books. Like, the pessimist in me thinks like kids aren't checking out books, but I don't know, So it is. I think it's an opportunity to deepen those relationships and to,
keep on the sunny side.
Yeah. So yeah. Right. I think we're back to the plan.
You've done a really good job of tying it all in tonight.
I'm trying.
Sit down. I'm going to teach you myself next time so I can tie it in every time.
All right, just remember RISE.
Okay.
Relationships, innovation, say it with me. Relationships, student-centered excellence. That's all you gotta remember. All right. Okay, let's get to work. Action items. First up, we have expenditures and revenue reports. Questions? Now, do I have a motion to approve our expenditures or see more revenue? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Julie seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Cafeteria expenditures. So all the great work these outdoors keep doing. Do I have a motion to approve the cafeteria expenditures? So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. Personnel. We have a motion to approve our personnel recommendations.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, that motion carries. We got a few donations here. Should we
set. Any questions about the donations? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the donations.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Second and a third. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. VSBA delegate and alternate delegate for the next month. So Dr. Frazier corrected me. I thought we had divvied this out in our January meeting. We all took our committees. Yeah. But we did not. So we have not designated a delegate for the VSBA session, which I believe is the week before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
15th through the 17th.
I have gone the last 2 years, I've been involved in this, and I just think it's a great thing for us to be a part of. And while I would happily go again, I would really like to see some other people go, and I would like more than one of us to be going to this, even if it's for a part of the time. It's well worth the time that you spend.
So I can go to the conference for at least one of the days. I cannot be there on the voting day is the 16th.
Correct. That's the day I was supposed to do.
But I'd be happy to attend on the 15th. It's Braxton. Has a desire.
Not at all.
All right.
So we'll just need to vote on who
So
that
do-
delegate is and who that alternate delegate is.
We have a motion to approve the Shrews as our delegate. The SBA conference.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Thank you, the Shrews, and congratulations. Our grant and reimbursement of funds, our resolution, Dr. Frazier.
Do we have that final term?
Oh, do we need an alter?
Based on the email that I got from VSBA, yes.
We did.
Which brings out you were coming with that else.
Yeah, I can.
Hey, what happens if
What time of the voting, do we know the time of voting?
So there's a light reading pack that I'll give to you.
Shrews, I'll get her quick.
He said what time?
Yeah.
I think there was a question.
2 p.m.
It's 2.
There was a question from Ms. Sturts. He said, what happens if we don't attend the conference at all?
Yeah, like what's the,
Nothing happens if we don't.
I mean, like, I was just,
You have to get it up.
y'all know my love for the VSBA, so I was curious as to, I guess I'll wait for the report from this one. But I'd like to know the kind of pros of going to it and the benefit that we get from it, I guess. And then if we don't attend, then let's,
Yeah, there's no.
I think
What's
the
the harm in not
benefit, one of
attending?
the benefits is understanding what other school systems are asking of our state legislators and legislature. That's one of the benefits for me, like the stuff I just mentioned earlier about them wanting everybody to have electric buses within 10 years. Well, that's ridiculous.
right.
But it was good to hear the back and forth between the various school systems in the state about things like that. And you're saying, well, gosh, that doesn't impact us right now, but it may impact us at some point. And so kind of understanding what's happening around the state that you can't get, even though Dr. Kessler sends out the emails to us about the state, what's happening. It's better to actually hear the conversations on that than it is to get an email about it. But that's maybe I'm old school, so I like hearing the conversations.
I mean, y'all know where I stand on the VSBA, and I saw footage from one of their conferences when they were
very clearly leaning to one side of an issue and berating people that were on the other side. And so I just, if we go in accepting everything that happens at a BSBA conference and everything they put forth as gospel, then I have an issue with that, I guess.
So this
But
would be
whatever, I mean,
an
y'all-
opportunity to go and
Well, I mean, I cannot get off work. It's during teaching hours, so I don't have that many personal days. But I mean, I was just curious. That's all. I mean, if somebody wants to go, then that's prerogative. But when we didn't have a delegate, I was just like, why not just not send someone?
we'll have the positions, right? You can have the positions.
I think they'll be sent out once we have the delegate.
Yeah, you can see what they're proposing. If you have feedback like that's when we can say, no, we don't want to vote yes for this. And then you send your delegate.
So what are you voting on?
It's on lobby positions. So it's not voting on actual legislation. It's just, they list out. No, but yeah, so we can look, like, we'll get those, just look at the positions when you get it.
Okay.
You can kind of get a flavor of what goes on there. And
Okay.
majority of it's middle of the road, but then you may get, you know, a county out west that's totally against something. Doesn't affect us.
Right. All right.
And it's sometimes, entertainment to see other.
It's very
board
entertaining.
members.
But enlightening as well.
I'm not gonna say anything.
It was you, wasn't it?
No, I know,
It was
I'm
you.
no, I'm not.
You did it.
One of those things, so.
All right.
Yeah. Do we need to include that in the motion, or did we already vote? Did we vote on But if I'm listed, there's no. We have a motion for me to serve as the alternate delegate.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. Second. Duly seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the motion carries. Okay, Dr. Frazier, to the funds reimbursement funds resolution. Is there any other commentary or?
Just so board members know, each year we have to submit a resolution to the town in order to tap into any funds that were received outside of the regular budget process. And so those funds are listed here. You will note the $292,000 that's coming from the Virginia Department of Education. Those are the funds from the new budget. But also what's very specific about this is next month we will present on the All in Virginia plan. And so $275,000 of these funds is actually earmarked for the All in VA plan. These are the extra funds that we are receiving from the state for this fiscal year, for this current budget. So this resolution goes to town council for them to approve it and to reappropriate it. You can also see the amount of rollover funds from last year that we will be asking the town to reappropriate to us so we can tap into those funds for this year. And those rollover funds, what we tend to do with rollover funds is to be able to do one-time purchases or some things that just may not have necessarily been budgeted for. And so as we talked at our strategic plan meeting, we talked about being able to tap into the Dr. Baker and the Berkeley group. We can use some of our rollover funds for that. We can use some of our rollover funds to continue our partnership with the Donovan Group and our communication services. We'll use rollover funds for some capital improvement projects as well. But we are grateful for our town because historically, as the chair of the education committee sits in the room tonight, historically, town council has been very gracious to roll those funds over to us so we can use those funds for in our budget. questions about the resolution? So once approved, then I have my monthly meeting with, the town manager tomorrow, so I will share the resolution with him tomorrow.
We have a motion to approve the additional grant awards and reimbursement funds resolution.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All that opposed, motion carries. Next up, we have a motion to accept our strategic plan.
And move, we accept our strategic plan.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All that opposed, the motion carries. We officially have a strategic plan. We know we've been working to it, so. Can't read my mind. Oh, budget calendar. Thank you. All right. The last one, we have a motion to accept the budget calendar as presented tonight.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Let's see, we've had some informational items there. A few questions.
And I actually just shared, some of the informational items, but just in partnership with the Donovan Group, the department that we're going to continue. And they are actually working on, currently working on, the strategic plan, like taking it and making it into a nice document for us. So it is not the large font that Ms. Kurtz does not like. So they've been great, and we have some other projects that are coming out. We actually have been working on a student growth document as well, to highlight our student growth and student assessment data from the last year. And we're working on an annual report to report out the things from last year. We received a proposal from Dr. Bateman and the Berkeley Group, and so we will move forward with that. We shared at the strategic plan meeting that on January 1st, we will be rolling out a new website. So we continue to have those meetings to update our website, and with that website, it will come. An app that does come with that website, and so it will just be another way for us to make sure that we're keeping all of our students and families and school community informed of what's going on here in West Point Public Schools. And lastly, Mr. Leach has had some meetings in the last 2 weeks with board docs. And so we are looking to implement board docs. So we would go away from uploading our board packets in Google and have a more user-friendly way to have our board documents kept and for our board members to be able to access those documents. Not only will it be easier for the board, but it'll also be easier for the public, and also easier for our clerk, as he will be able to upload items as they come and maybe start a little earlier. So we're excited about that. We look to sign that agreement this week, so we can move forward with that.
You can tie that back to innovation.
We can.
And excellence.
Excellence. And relationships.
And relationships.
Rise.
We've got all 4 standards.
The next meeting is, yeah, no, I was just having a question about the next meeting.
Maybe on Wednesday.
It's on Wednesday. That's the same day as the 15th. As the VSBA. But it won't.
Yes.
I don't think we're going that late.
It's over. She said it's over.
But that is on Wednesday. Okay, delegation. Ms. Lazar. Podium, state your name, and I will give you 3 minutes if I can figure it out. Let's see.
614 Wrightfield Road in King, Queen County, and I'm in 11th grade at West Point High School. I am here tonight to discuss the golf team and the lack of support we have received. This is my second year on the team and I'm the only female player. I really enjoyed being a part of the team, playing golf with my friends and being coached by Joel Mooney. The West Point Country Club and especially the golfers at the club have been so kind and generous with our team. They were so excited when golf was brought back as a sport at the school. We have a big problem. Our team does not get the same support as other athletic teams at West Point. No other sport is responsible for providing all of its own equipment, even down to golf balls used during practice and matches. Can you imagine if softball had to buy their own box of balls for each home game? Or if football had to provide their own shoulder pads? Or if basketball had to provide their own uniforms? Or if esports had to provide their own gaming computers? I've had to purchase which equals all of the above. We have to supply everything for ourselves except for a shirt. Now that doesn't seem quite fair, and I'm sure many of you would agree. I know some people would say golf doesn't generate any money from ticket sales, but we currently only have 3 sports that generate any money from ticket sales, yet the other teams are taken care of and provided anything they need to compete. As the only female on the team, I was provided a uniform for a male, so I had to purchase my own female shirt. This is the second year this has happened. The former athletic director knew I was playing on the team but failed to provide me with what I needed. This is a Title IX issue. I proposed at the end of last school year to purchase team bags because we all know the saying, when you look good, you play better. I did the research and priced out bags with the help of Chris George at Kingsmill. I was told the team would need to raise money to purchase the golf bags. The athletic boosters sponsored a golf tournament, and it was advertised the money would go to the golf team to help defray the costs associated with the sport. Members of the golf team not only attended and played, but also advertised the event. I was frustrated and deeply saddened to find out the extra $2,000 made at the tournament will go to other sports teams and not be used to purchase items that the team desperately needs, like tees, practice and match balls, push carts, and uniforms for cold and wet weather. I do not think that the turnout for the golf fundraiser would have been as successful as it was if the participants knew part of the money would be going to other teams. I am coming to you tonight to make sure you are aware of the issue because I'm not sure you knew there was one. I asked that you intervene and make sure all sports are treated the same and money earned by the team is spent on the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.